All right, so what we want to do is we want to start here and talk a little bit about notes receivable. And, um, when we think about long-term notes receivable, uh, it's going to normally be in exchange for property, goods, or services. And it should presume that the stipulated interest rate on the note is fair unless no interest rate is stated, so it's a non-interest note. The stated interest rate is clearly unreasonable, or the face value of the note is materially different from the cash sales price of the property, goods, or services, or from the fair value of the note on the transaction date. Just remember that the note receivable is going to be recorded at the fair value of the property, goods, or services, or the fair value of the note, whichever is more clearly determinable. If neither of these values can be determined, the note is recorded as present value using the borrower's incremental interest rate. So let's take a look at exercise 18 first, and then we'll get into the other situation with exercise 19. But in this case, they tell us on January 1st, Krauser sold land to Chad Company, accepting a 2-year, $150,000 non-interest-bearing note. So that's one of those first cases, a non-interest-bearing. That's going to be due January 1st, 2015. And the fair value of the land was $123,966.90 on the day of the sale. The company purchased the land for $120,000 back in 2007, and they asked us to prepare all the journal entries. Well, given that the value of the land on that date was $123,966, that suggested that that is the value of the note. And so the first thing we want to think about is, basically what interest rate is in that note. And so what we're thinking about here is that N equals 2, and the present value equals the 123,966.90. And remember, that's negative because that's the amount of property that we're selling, 123,966.90. And the future value, the amount that we're going to receive 2 years from now, is $150,000. And remember that the payment, and remember the payment's always the stated rate times the face value. Well, just remember this is a non-interest-bearing note, so it's 0 is the stated rate, and so this is going to be 0. And we're going to solve to determine the interest rate per period. And when we do that, we should end up with an interest rate of 10%, right? We should solve for interest rate 10%. Now that we've done that, we can kind of do this problem, and let me just draw a line here. And so on January 1st, remember that note is going to go on the books at its face value, notes receivable, and that's $150,000. But remember, the present value of the note is $123,966. So in there's a discount on that note receivable of $26,033.10. So discount on note receivable, and that is going to be $26,033.10. And so we're receiving something of value of $123,966. The land is on the books for $120. So it looks like we have a gain on the sale of land of $3,966.90. All right. Now, how do we determine the amount of interest income for the year? So remember this note, this is 1/1/13, and we're not going to get the money, the $150,000, until 1/1/15. And the interest payment is 0 each year. But that doesn't mean that there's not interest income, right? So we have taken a discount on this note, and that discount is going to be amortized to interest. So on 12/31, right, how much interest? Well, my interest income or revenue, and remember, we always do this, it's always the effective rate multiplied by the carrying value. Well, my effective rate is that rate that we calculated, that 10%. And the initial carrying value was 123,966. So remember, you think about these two T accounts, note receivable, that's on the books at 150. And we have this discount on notes receivable. And remember that discount started out at 26,033.10. Well, that discount is going to be amortized interest income, and it's going to end up at 0 after we do 2 amortizations, and then, right, the 150,000 will come at the end. So my 12/31 journal entry is going to be, and I'm just going to put cash here. Cash is 0. The discount amortization, discount on note receivable, right? We wouldn't put cash equals 0, but I just wanted to put out that, remember, the cash payment is stated rate times face value, and it's always going to be 0 when it's a non-interest bearing note. The discount on notes receivable is $12,396.69. So the 10% times the 123,966.90, and then I'm going to credit interest income for $12,396.69, and that will be for 12/31/13. And then for 12/31/14, if we had to do that journal entry for 12/31/14, right, we'd have the same debit and credit. And I won't put the journal entry up here, but it would be for $13,636.41, right? There's a penny or so of rounding, and that will give us down to 0 on that. And right, the last entry would be on January 1st, 15, and that would be debit cash 150, credit note receivable 150. All right, so that's exercise 18. And I'm going to stop here, and then we'll do another exercise, exercise 19.